Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here. And this is a different take, isn't it? You don't see my desktop right now. This is part of my jewelry section of my studio. Now, I wasn't planning to do this video, but I'm doing it for Caroline because Caroline was looking for some storage options for her new shelves and her new desk that she has in her new studio. Do check out her channel to see how she's doing. And so I'm showing this for Caroline, but I thought I'd take you along for the process as well. So these are only some, not all, of my beads that I use for. I used to make a lot of jewelry at one time, and now I make dangles and I make window dangles. And then I also use a lot of jewelry parts and pieces for my journals. So this is only part of my bead stash, which you'll see in a second. But these were the boxes I had made a couple years ago now. I do have a video. I think it's either 2 or 3 parts to the video on making these boxes, and it's intense. To make these boxes, I could maybe on a good day get 6 to 8 boxes done all day. Because they are made very, very sturdy. They hold a lot of product in them. And I wanted to make them a little bit more fun and interesting. But I realized that I would never get all the boxes done. So I went to a simpler method, and I'll just slowly show you. First of all, if you look at the pink here, this is a larger container. This one is 8 inches tall. And these ones are 5 1/4 inches tall, and I'll explain that in a second. But I tried to line up the containers to fit the shelves, and so this shelf is only 5 1/2 inches deep, whereas this is, I think, 8 1/2 or 9 inches deep. At one time, I had glass jars, which is a great visual as well, but I found that glass jars, unless I spent a lot of money making sure that I had all the jars the same, and jars are round, they're never square or very seldom, and I felt that they would never fit on my shelves properly where I would utilize every inch of space, which is why I made these so that it goes right to the top, right to the very back. I think I leave a little bit of room. Sometimes they stick out a little bit further, and that depends. But it utilizes all of the space. So then again, I could only make 8, and I think in total there will be about 150 when I'm finished, because I'm going to show you what my beads actually look like. I know I'm scaring you right now, right? So I'm just going to go up a little bit. Now, I haven't done them all. So the blue ones have, like sort of the blue and teal have the boxes kind of coordinated going up like this. And, then as we go up higher, you'll see there's some different stuff up there. So I was trying to do by colors, one large down here and then 2 small. And if I needed more, which I do on the other side, then I just made another row and did the same thing. So I have like the oranges, but you can see here, I haven't made a box for this one yet, and then this one is also orange stuff, like there's orange beads in here, so I haven't made a box for this. I haven't made another box for this pink, and it just became too overwhelming to do. There's always something else to do except fix up your studio, right? Because you make it as functional as you can and then just keep working. For me, it's I do a lot of journals and different projects, so I really focus more on that than I have been on creating these boxes. So then I came up with this method, which is just the corrugated cardboard. They will get decorated eventually, but it's a much faster method, which I'm going to teach you today, and which I'm going to show Caroline today. And it does the same thing. So I'll take you up a level now, and you can see. Now up at the top, this is where my findings are, up here. And so you can see I had one time tried milk cartons, didn't like it because they don't fit the shelf. There's a lot of space here that's wasted, and I'm about value, so I always like to know that my shelves are full, and that the containers are being utilized properly that I can get the maximum of. But up here is where I keep findings and kind of generic beads like silver and gold, because a lot of times you use silver and gold, white and clear, mixed in with colored beads, or at least I do. And so that is how I organize this. And then on the end here, I have things like chains, and you can see some leather cord here that I use also in my decorating. I'm being very careful not to go onto the other side because I'll save that for another day. And then, it does go down further. I'm only about waist high as to where these shelves are. And so there's other things like white and clear and pearl. Some of them are still necklaces I haven't taken apart, but they go into the rightful category. And same within these boxes. In some cases, I have if a necklace was all pink or all orange, it went right into the bucket, and then I will take it apart as I need it. And in the case of the beads, you can see plastic bags in there. It's because I do keep a lot of the beads separate until you get into the bigger, chunkier beads. Then I just have them loose in the bucket. I will show you some of that later on. So then so that's just, you can see it's only a few colors. Like, where's the green? Where's the black? Where's the purple? Well, it's on this side. So these shelves are about 6 feet tall, and they go right to the floor. But, I've got stuff on the floor, so I don't really want to go that far down. Towards the bottom, there's some Kleenex boxes, and it's more hardware and other types of things that I put in these buckets. But there's the purple, the black, and the green. And you can see here, let's see if I can get my finger in the right spot here. Where am I? There I am. You can see here, this is black. I'll just go back a little bit further. That's black as well as this one, but these ones aren't decorated. Another thing you'll notice, I'll just go back to this side really quickly, is I put pulls on my boxes. That was an afterthought. These ones had knobs, but they were more decorative, not necessarily functional, because I would worry about pulling them out. Whereas these ropes that I've added on, now I can pull the drawer out a little bit so I can at least grab it, because they're quite heavy when they're full. And so I didn't want to, be trying to pick up here because they're so flush sometimes. I didn't want to have to try and pick up there to get the box out. So this was an afterthought, and I will show you how I do that as well. So not all of my boxes have them yet. So if you look on this side, a lot of them don't have them yet. And I kind of given myself a little job that when I make 2 or 3 of these boxes, I come in and finish 2 or 3 that aren't finished as well. So it's a slow process, but it's the method to my madness. So these are all of the beads. And then here, this box here is all what I call boho ethnic. It's got some dream catcher pieces and really wooden pieces and funky things, feathers. So that's the kind of stuff that goes in there. And then these next 8 boxes here, these are dangle boxes. And I will bring one of these to the table so you can see what's in a dangle box. And they are done by color. So this is kind of reds, like mostly red. This is purples and pinks. This one is kind of black with a little bit of gray. And it can be black and gold, black and silver, but the main color is black. This is the one I use the most, which is my browns, oranges, and yellows. So I'm constantly making dangles and throwing them in there. And maybe I'll bring that one to the table for you to see. And then kind of white ivory pearl. This one's kind of green tones. Let's just have a little peek right in the box there so you can see I know it's a little bit of shadow, but it's the best I can do. So there's greens in there. And then this one is kind of like with the green here is kind of green teal and green. And this is more blue teal and blues. And then we get into the silvers. And sometimes I might find a gray thing in there because it's kind of silvery gray. Now, a little further down here, there's metal rings, there's buckles, key rings. These are all pieces and parts that I use in my dangle making. And then it gets into other things. Now, I think Here is more the green beads going up. This got moved around. I have to make another black box of black beads. That green is supposed to line up here. For me, I do have OCD, and so sometimes I find it difficult to be in this corner because there's just too much, but it's the only way I could manage it, and keep things organized. And so I don't know that I will go with colors in the boxes because it's too much for me. So eventually these will have to get recovered. I know it's so strange, and I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but I find that it's getting more and more intense the older I get. I don't know why, but yeah, I've noticed that it really certain things bother me. So then going up here, I'll just quickly show you. There's clip-on earrings. They aren't labeled, but I know what they are. But eventually, when these are all covered, because I will cover them, but it just probably in plain book pages, because then the items will pop out a little bit more through the box, which will be enough for me to be recognizing them. As well, I will have labels on them. So these first two are just small seed beads and bugle beads, things that I use in my slow stitching. Then when you move over here, I've got clip-on earrings that I use for flower centers. It even says flower centers on there. Cabochons, very blingy pieces, more bling. What does it say up there? Oh, coins and different things that I use for boho stuff. And then up here, not labeled. Okay, that is waiting for boxes to be made, which is why I'm working on these boxes today a little bit too. That's kind of oddities up there. It's kind of a mix of odds and ends that I like to dig through once in a while. Hair accessories, but I have a really cool project to show you for junk journals. These are some frames and different things. Up on top is just more boxes of decorative jewelry bits. I love jewelry. And then different parts up here. Those were utilizing some milk cartons, but that was a big procedure, and I'll explain that when I get to the table too. And then just boxes with stuff. And I think you've seen this in my other video. Like I have bottle caps and bingo chips in there. What's in that one? Pencil crayons and gel pens and embossing supplies and glitter, but those are all going to change eventually. So the nice thing about collaging these boxes is that I can just put new labels over top for whatever I do put inside them. But that was my way to decorate at one point. So yeah, so we're going to make these boxes today. I'm going to show you how I make them. Eventually these will all be covered. And I've realized I've got a fun, fast way to cover them as well. But my motto for this was done, not perfect, but done. So that's how I'm getting these boxes slowly done. And it's not a matter of me not wanting to finish making the boxes right now. It's that the cardboard collection hasn't kept up with the box making. So I finally got a bunch of boxes after Christmas. So I cut all the cardboard, and starting today I will put more together, and hopefully I can show you more of this in the future when I do a whole studio tour. So I'm going to pause the camera for a second now and get back to my desk, and then we will start making some boxes. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back at my desk here now. Back to the real place where I video. So this is that box of dangles. I just wanted you to have an idea of what's inside. And so I brought it to the table here. Again, you can tell it was a cardboard box. This was from Halloween. I bought potato chips for the kids. So I use corrugated cardboard to make these. Here's my string handle, and it's got beads on the inside, but I will show you how I do this as well. And on occasion, some of my boxes have things dangling from them, and it's usually to remind me of something. And so, which is why another reason why I brought this color was I plan on doing something with browns, and so I wanted to keep these handy in case I needed them. And these dangles all have small little charms on the bottom. So it was just to remind me about that. And then this is a reminder that I only have 2 of these left. I used to make these all the time, in 50 at a time when I would make them. And these are done with a bottle cap as a charm, and then the beads on them. And I just have them hanging there because I only have 2 of these left. And so I just kept them on there to remind myself that I got to make them. But inside, sometimes there's bags, because I do beadwork sometimes upstairs at nighttime when I'm watching TV. And so I will just bring down a bag of assorted, this was recent in these colors, because I was, I use oranges and green, browns and, well, and greens too, but oranges and browns and yellows a lot. So these are, I was just caught up. And sometimes I keep them separate because they're all kind of related. And if I want to use them for a certain project, which you will see coming up, how I utilize these as well. They're kind of all similar. So I keep them all together only because sometimes for a project I need 5 or 6 pieces, and I'm not in the mood to scratch and find them. But sometimes, and that's why they are loose in here, because sometimes I like to come in here and take out a bunch. Now, do I have a container I can put them into? No, but I can use the lid of this box here. That'll be good. So sometimes I like to dump things out and see what I have. I'm not going to dump the whole thing, but so this is just a chain necklace, but it was in the shades of brown. So I leave it in here because maybe I want to cut off this much to use on a journal, or maybe I just want to make a little dangle or one piece. I can use it that way as well. So I just leave it in here long because it's in these colors. And it's, it's not to say that when I do a brown journal, I just use brown beads. It's just, this is where I kind of focus more. And, I might, when I'm doing a brown journal, it might be browns with rust and ivory and pearls. And so I will bring all of the boxes to the table and scratch my way through. I'm just going to stuff these back in here. And this really should be more in the boho colors, but I think when I was originally sorting the oranges, I just put it in here because it had mostly orange, or this was the color that I saw the most, so it got stuck in here. But there's pieces here again of parts of a necklace. I could use this as a whole piece on a journal, or in bits and pieces. Now with this, these are beaded pieces, so if I cut this, that means I'm going to lose something along the way, but I just keep it in here for that reason, that I want different colors. And some things have, they're brass charms, but this has a brown stone in it. It's a variety of reasons why it gets thrown in this box, but it's just fun to come sometimes and scratch my way through and find different things. Now this was a bunch of earrings that I picked up at a, I don't know, thrift shop, or I don't remember, but they are pearls. I can cut them and harvest the individual pearls, which I have done. But sometimes I just leave them as a whole, because sometimes they're nice as they are, just to use as a dangle. They get a little bit squashed in here, but they do make a really pretty dangle as well. There's some bigger ones, like this is a butterfly bead. Somebody gifted me these. And then there are some longer ones here with these big chunky beads. These I may not necessarily use for my journals, but I might use them in a window dressing or a dangle that I'm making. So again, I just keep them in here by color. There's a few blingy charms in here because the stone was brown. I thought I could add this to something that was waiting for something on the bottom. Just because I want to show you that, I don't think I have one. Sometimes I just make, they just have the loop on the bottom, so I could definitely add this to the bottom if I wanted, by just hooking it on. And so because they have the brown in here, I just leave them in there. And then same with the yellow and the orange. And then, like something like this, it's a glass chandelier piece, but it's the right colors, and same with this piece of chain is the right colors. So I can sometimes incorporate things like that together to make nice dressing on my journals or whatever it is I'm working on. So that's just to give you an idea of what's in here. And anytime you want to come over and play in my sandbox, you are more than welcome. And I'm waiting for Jen and Deb to come. They are both junk journalers here in New Brunswick. I'm waiting for them to come over and play, have a play in my junk with me. Here's some more butterflies too in yellow and orange. So yeah, it's a way for me to always be aware of what I have. Like, when I come in here and I want to pick something, I can scratch through and find something, and sometimes find something totally different than what I had originally planned. And yeah, even though I might be making a brown or an orange journal, it doesn't limit me to this box. It just reminds me that, that's where I would start. So I hope that makes sense. And yeah, the whole thing is to show you these boxes, not really what's inside them at this point. So in making the boxes, there are a few things you need. You need the cardboard. You need to know what size you want to make. Now these pieces are here are my 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. And the reason for that is the shelf is 5 1/2 inches tall. And I wanted to allow some wiggle room, which you will see in a second, so that I wasn't making the boxes too tight to fit, because I did run into that problem where I was trying to make them exact. That's me. And so then they were a little bit tight to fit, and then I had to find places where the shelf was, a little bit bigger or low or whatever to fit it. So then I realized I should make them a little bit shorter than the shelf. And then in my case, the shelf is 5 1/2 inches deep, approximately. And so I knew the shelves, the boxes could technically be square at 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. This would allow a little bit of a lip in the front, just to further secure it and keep the weight balanced, and also aesthetically pleasing, that they would all be the same height and width. So my box for the small shelf is 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 squares, and you need 5 of them. You need to make your 4 walls and your base. To make the taller boxes, my shelf was 8 1/2 inches, so I went with an 8-inch height, and I stayed with the 5 1/4. And that's because for me, it's easier to remember one measurement, and just adjust it for the height. And this way the bases were interchangeable. If I was waiting to make a box in this size and I needed another base, I could take something from these cardboards. Because what I do is I pre-cut the cardboards and let them pile up until I have enough to do several boxes at once, and then I put them together. So when you're measuring in your shelf, if your shelf is 10 inches tall and you want the box to fit the whole height, by all means, you would maybe go to 9 1/2 to cut your cardboard. And then you need to decide how wide you want to make it and how deep you want to make it. Maybe you have a 12-inch deep shelf. Then you have to find cardboard, which is a little harder. But you can find the cardboard, or you can make boxes like this and put one in front of the other. Maybe you can figure out a way that you can use 2 boxes, one in front of each other, that hold the same things or hold something similar, so that you don't have this big long box to deal with. But if you can find the cardboard and make these long boxes, by all means do it, because that's great for holding papers and all kinds of things. And it's not just limited to beads. You could have your paints by colors. You could have 20 bottles of paint shoved in here. You could have a box that just holds sequins, or a box that just holds glitter, which eventually I will have that on my shelves over there. I just haven't gotten where I'm finished yet. And so don't think of it just as holding beads, because it could hold bottles of paint, things that you need to square up. Maybe it's a way for you to square up your wooden stamps. Maybe I like to display mine, but maybe you're not like that. Or your ink pads. Maybe you can throw all your ink pads into a box. The whole idea with squaring everything up is you use the full length and width of your shelf, and you have a ceiling of how much stuff you can put in there. Whereas when I use the round jars, anything that was the shelf is like this, sorry, and you go to put a round jar, well, you're losing all this space around it, because even though you can put another jar right next to it, you've lost all of this space, and there's the in-between space. So to me, having this allows me to square everything up. Does that make sense? I hope it does. You can fill a box like this full of buttons, or threads, or a cord, ribbons. I do utilize these in my ribbons as well. So cardboard is the first thing that you need. And if you are going to make these, I'm going to give you a little suggestion, and that's to do a test first before you start investing and cutting and saying, well, you get all these boxes made and you say, well, it doesn't work for me. I used milk cartons, but I didn't want to look at the milk carton. So I covered the front with a little decorative adhesive, just so that it didn't look like a milk carton. So this might be an alternative for you as well. The nice thing about a milk carton is if you're going to put them on your shelf, 10 in a row or 6 in a row, you don't have to cover the backs, because you're not going to see that anyway. I mean, yeah, if you pull it off the shelf, you will. Then it's a milk carton. But milk cartons, maybe you have milk cartons every couple of days, a 2-liter or 2-quart milk carton. So this is an alternative. They're very sturdy boxes. I just found that they were not using my shelf to the maximum. But in using the milk cartons, it gave me that idea of how this could work. And that's why I started out with milk cartons. And I used milk cartons while I waited to get cardboard. As I was putting things and sorting things, and realizing how I can use my shelves to the maximum, this was a great alternative while I was waiting for these. So don't discard the idea that these wouldn't help you to decide. And maybe you're going to put things in these containers, and then you're going to say, oh, you know what, doesn't work for me. No time invested, no real expense invested, and you can just recycle and repurpose these. But they are great for a number of things. I have them filled with ribbon in my ribbon section, which eventually you'll get to see. The other thing that is a good alternative is milk cartons. Now, this one I covered with duct tape. I think this was one of the very first ones I did, so it's not the prettiest looking thing. I didn't like duct tape because I was limited to whatever colors I could find. It's expensive on the roll, just not something that was appealing to me. And then I didn't like the colors. There was just too much color for me. So that is an alternative, but this is a Kleenex box. So if you have Kleenex boxes, you can certainly open these up at the top. And I use these for all kinds of things too. You can open these up at the top and cut off the flaps from the top, and then cut it down. I mean, you can only go as far as the opening, but cut it down to fit your shelf, or if your shelf is the full length. I think these are 9 1/4 inches or 9 1/2. Oh, this one's 8 1/2. So you can certainly use these as a test, and then just either replace the window. And depending on what you're putting in the container, you may not have to replace the window. Just put a little bit of packing tape on here or something to hold that opening closed. And so you can use this as an alternative to do a test to see if you actually like this method of making boxes. And I don't know in your household, but in our household, we go through a lot of Kleenex or tissue. And so we have these boxes all the time. I use them, I use the cardboard itself because it's so pretty. I buy my tissue boxes based on the box so that I get the colors that I like. So it is an alternative, again, to test to see if this method could work for you, because you don't want to do this and make 50 boxes or 100 boxes or 150 boxes and then decide, yeah, it's not going to work. But for me, I know it works. I know that I like it for my methods. And so I am now going to go strictly with this. But I do have a few Kleenex boxes and a few milk cartons still kicking around until I have a chance to replace them with one of these boxes. And so you can see the difference in size as well. If you look at the box that I've made to fit the shelf compared to this, so there's a lot of space that's empty in that shelf, that it's not filling. So I was using these too deep on the shelf in order to maximize the space. So that is an option as well. So you don't necessarily need to make your box the full shelf width. But definitely you want the height, right? So you would have to decide that based on the shelf that you're going to put these boxes on. So it's just a little bit of maneuvering and measuring to figure that out. So after all that, blah. So the things that you need your cardboard. Now you need to cut out something to create a window. I have a die cutting circle that I used. I have a Sizzix machine, and I have a big Z die that cuts the circle. You can absolutely cut these by hand. You just find an object to trace your circle onto, and then just slowly cut it. Is it going to be a perfect cut? Maybe not. It depends on how good you are with a blade or with scissors, but you can certainly use it as an alternative to having a Sizzix machine if you don't have one. If you have a friend that has one, then go over and use theirs. Cuts like butter. Corrugated cardboard cuts very easily with the Sizzix machine. So you need something to create the window. For making your window, you need some type of plastic to make the window. I use transparency film. I find this at the thrift shop all the time in the office section. If not, you can bite the bullet and go and buy some. It's still available in a lot of the office stores. Phone a friend. You can also use laminating sheets. I have used that. I just put them through the laminator first so that they're a little bit thicker, because then the two pieces adhere together and they're a little thicker. So that will make it not so flimsy for your box inside. So you need that. I use a hot glue gun. Now, that's the initial way I use to put the box together, because it holds it together quickly. You can use your white glue, but you're going to stand there and hold it. So if you don't have a glue gun, my first question is, why not? But the thing is, if you don't have one, do invest in one. There's so many projects that you can do so much quicker with a hot glue gun, even in your junk journals, for putting things together that, it's not great for doing your fabric covers, of course, but there are lots of applications where I use a hot glue gun, no problem, for my journals. The other thing you need is some packing tape. I wouldn't try to do this with Scotch tape. You can use it, maybe if you want to use duct tape or, some other heavier adhesive that will hold it together. But I like packing tape to put these together. I am using twine for my box pulls, and I'm using some crow beads on the inside. I had a couple of bags of these, so I'm using crow beads on the inside, but you can use anything. You can also just put a knot, but I will explain why I use the crow beads on the inside afterwards. And then you need a tool to make holes. If you're putting a pull on, you need a tool to make some kind of holes for your pull, your drawer pull. And you don't have to use twine. You can use ribbon, cord, maybe you have other, some torn sari fabric, whatever you have to make a pull. And you don't necessarily have to make a pull on them, but that's depending on how you're going to have them sit on your shelf. And it, kind of looks cute too with those hanging. The other thing is I found that because I was putting the pull close to the top, if you are making a box for something heavy like wire, or you know, maybe you have a whole bucket full of heavy wooden beads that you're putting in this, or buttons, you're filling this container with buttons. I found that having the holes at the top is great to pull, but I also put a hole or a pull on the bottom, so that you would have to do before you put the box together. So you have to be a little bit mindful of what's going in the box. But if you start making these boxes, you're going to be making lots of them, so you can always switch them around if you decide you want to make one that is a little bit more in line with whatever you're going to put in it. So once you have your pieces, you need 5 pieces. I'm going to make the small box because they're all the same size. If I don't think there will be time, but you know, if there was time, I could make the tall box as well. Now, because my shelf is 5.5 inches tall, and in the length of the shelf, you know, I fit 7 boxes, and there's a little space left over, and I did think about using it or making a narrow box to go in there, and I could have probably rearranged or rethought my process when I was making them. I don't know why I ended up with that little piece. I think because I went square. That's probably why, where I kept everything the same size. So I have this little space left on each of my shelves, and I thought of making a smaller, narrower box to put odd things in, but I realized it's a great place to catch things when you want a quick way to just put it on the shelf and say, okay, I will get to the right box, or you know, I will put it away after. I just found it's a great way to just have a little bit of storage space that I could just use for whatever. So that's my method. And you may decide not to make every box fill every inch of your space, but this is a great, like I said, it just utilizes so much. It's like having drawers on your shelves, which is really what it is. So you need 5 pieces. You need your 4 walls and your front. When I die cut the hole, I kept the hole. And if you watched my spool video, where I showed you how to make the spools, it's in my on my channel. You can just go and have a look. That is what I used, is the hole from these. So when I said to you I had about 50 of these, I think I have more than 50. But yeah, I have more than enough to make all the spools I want, because I kept the hole from making the boxes, thinking I was going to use it for something. You know, I know I'm going to use some of them for making some decorations on journals, but I hadn't gotten there yet. But when I looked at them one day, I said, okay, I'm going to use that to make these spools. And these are made with the die cut from this, and then a toilet paper roll. So do check out that video if you haven't already watched it. So I will go one step further with this, is that when I made these, I used the same die cutter to cut the circle out, because I didn't want to have to collage bits and pieces and then go round. So I used the same die to cut the paper, the book page. And then after I did that, I realized, okay, so I have all of these left. And so I have saved them, because when I go to collage these, I will put them on here as the base to go around the circle, and then I will work from there. And then in the case of the small ones, I will wrap it around here to get a base going, and then put my bottom on. So if we have time, I'll try to show you how this works as well. But it just shows you that I do use every single thing, and I don't throw it out. And these are also great for making windows for your for a journal pocket. You know, lots of uses for that. Okay, when are we going to get started? Well, it's pretty easy. Once you've got this part done, I take my windowed piece and a base, and I decide which one is the base. Now, when I'm gluing these, I glue on top of the box, not on the outside of the box, because if you glue on the outside of the box, you're making your box that much wider. on both sides, right? Or on all sides. So you want to glue on top of the base. And then this is where it comes in, because remember I said my shelf was 5.5 inches and I cut these to 5.25. That's because I'm adding a little bit more when I put it on the base here, which is why when I was making them 5.5 exact, I was running into a problem that this was too tall. So you have to keep that in mind when you're making these, you know, as to what size you want to keep them on your shelf. And if you do glue them on the outside, which is easy to do, it's easy to forget and start gluing on the outside, then you run into the problem where, you know, it's going to maybe hang over your shelf if you've measured exact, or, you know, on the side, when you're putting the sides on, you know, depending on the cardboard, because my cardboard pieces are not always the same width. So you run into a problem where there's a little bit extra width past the box if you do glue them on the outside. So this is why I was gluing them right onto the base. And this is a much thicker piece, so I'm going to use this as the bottom, and then you'll be able to see it a little bit better too. So yeah, there was not a box that was sacred in my house. After Christmas, I took all the boxes. So what I do is I take the hot glue. Now this is probably going to run off midway, only because. And I just, oh, that was very crooked, wasn't it? I don't worry too much if I go over the edges, but I see that it's running out of glue already. Oh, no, it should take it. And all I'm doing is putting this window on here to hold it in place with the hot glue, making sure that it lines up pretty good with the edge. And then I take the packing tape, and I do it right away because it's a lot of work if you leave it all to the end. And I just wrap it, not going over the hole. And I don't worry if I miss some of it, and I just put the tape over top of the glue. So the glue is holding it, but now the tape is holding everything together. And that's so that just in case I missed a spot with the glue, I know that this is going to hold it. So this is the bottom. And so now I work doing the bottom first and then the side. So I will go first like with my glue along the edge here. And you're going to have to maneuver a little bit. I cut these with the guillotine, so they're not 100% perfect. You know, you're going to have a little bit sticking over. And I just get it lined up as best as you can. Like I said, it's going to have some parts where it's not perfectly glued. You're going to have little bits that might stick out on the edges here once you put it down. And then I kind of lift this up while it's glued. I kind of lift and open a little bit here, and I put some glue along the edge of one piece. Because remember, this is just to basically hold it together. And glue it in place. So now that I have those two ends glued, I again go back with packing tape. Sorry, you're going to have to listen to the noise. And I go around the sides that I've glued. Here's the side and across. And you can see I have a little bit of extra tape. I hope you can see that. I don't know for sure. I'll see in the camera after. And I just kind of fold one end and fold the other end down. And then I do the same thing on the bottom. And if it overlaps, there goes a milk carton. If it overlaps, I overlap into the part that's already done. and tape it down. So now you can see there's the opening, the top, and then I've done the one side wall. So then I'll just do another wall. Now you could, I haven't been doing it, but you could make sure that all your nice finished cardboard is on the inside so that your inside is done complete, so you don't have to look at the advertising and stuff. But I didn't worry about that because when the box is full, you're not going to see all that stuff. It does bother me that it's not completely finished, but I've learned that I have to let that go and accept some things, because the question is done or perfect, and I went with done. So now I think my glue is getting very low here. Okay, there we go. So now again, I'm just putting glue along the one edge at a time to put my next sidewall on. And I lay that on top. Within the inside of the box, or I mean within the base of the box, so not on the outside of it, on the inside edge. So you'll see this, in this case, because it's so thick, you see this corrugated part here, but this is held on there pretty good. And then just kind of opening it up a little bit, I put glue on one of the sides using my hot glue. And glue that in place. And then once it's glued, we will do the same thing with the packing tape. And along the bottom. So whenever I'm putting the tape on and I've made it a little bit too long, I stop at the open section of the box and bring it back into here, and this way I can catch those corners just a little bit more and glue it or fold it up to fit the corner of the box. Okay, so I've done all of those. They're all done. Yep. One more side to put on. So again, I will try to get inside the box as much as possible. If you've gotten to the point where the box won't work for you like that, you can trim off a little bit. I know that this is only going to affect the length of the box, not the width. So I'm just going to work on the outside of this one on the bottom, because I know it's not going to affect, I don't know how to explain that. It's not going to affect the back side of the box because it's the length, whereas here I'm trying to stay within the height and the width. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So I'm just going to lay the glue a little bit on top here. I think as you do these boxes and you start to see them on your shelf, it will make more sense to you how they're put together. And then while it's gluing, I start gluing the other sides. So it's just glue and tape. Now you can see here something went wrong. Something went really wrong here. I have a little piece that's sticking up further. First I'll glue it down and then we'll deal with it. And that happens as you're doing this. You will find that some of your boxes don't meet up, and it's because something somewhere went haywire, or it could also be how you cut them. You know, you may have cut a piece just an 1/16 of an inch taller. Well, that 1/16 of an inch can go so many different directions depending on where you sit the cardboard on the box. So in that case, when I'm done, and sometimes I don't feel confident that I've really got a lot of glue in here. Like in this case, I don't. So once it's glued together, I will still run another bead of glue along the outside edge. These are eventually going to be collaged, hopefully before I retire. And so you won't see this glue. And this is, I think, the back side of the box anyway, so we're not going to see much of that glue. But where it is sticking up here, I don't want to worry that this has made it that much too deep on my shelf. And that's how precise I am about doing these boxes. So I will just take my scissors now and just trim that back just ever so slightly to not have that piece sticking up. And you know, when I go to put this on the shelf, I may have to do a little bit of adjusting. I'm not sure, but I think that was the only part that was sticking up. You can take a blade to this as well. I'm just using my scissors just for the sake of time. I'm just also trying to make it less noticeable by going right across. Okay, so now I just have to put tape on those 3 sides. Ooh, I'm going over there. Now in this case, I've gone over on both sides, so I'm just going to run it over on the both. I know it might be hard to see, but the tape does go around on the 3 sides here, so I'm just going to catch it by pushing it in here and catching it folding the other direction. Now, if you have a little bit of things sticking up, which I have here, I just take a little bit of tape and catch it along the bottom there, so that I don't have that lifting thing going on. And I'll do the same here. But you can see it's not much of a process to put these boxes together. So once I have this box glued and taped along the sides, I do go and do the tops too. And the reason for that is, you know, you're pulling these boxes out, you're working with them constantly. You put a lot of strain on the sides. So I do tape the boxes along the top too. But you got to make sure you don't go too far with your tape. Otherwise, you're going to have a crinkly mess in the corners. Does that make sense? So you have to kind of cut your tape shorter, so that you know that it fits, even if it means you have to do 2 pieces to overlap and get into the corners. And an example of that is here, where I've made this piece way too short. So I go into this corner, catching it on this side first. And you can see I have a little bit here that isn't covered. So I will go and now just take a smaller piece and catch that corner. And that's just to give good protection around the top of the box. Now in the case of here, my tape is going to be way too wide. If I go to wrap it around here to protect this, it's going to stick out of the bottom. I know, I'm a real fanatic about this. So I just take a piece of tape and I cut it in half. This might be where you want to use Scotch tape, I don't know. And I just do the same thing. And all it is to protect the top of the box. That's just me. I know that, you know, eventually these things do wear down, which is why I overlap here and cover the whole thing. So it has no interference with here. If I had used a bigger piece of tape, it would have gone over the edge here, and I would have had to cut it with my scissors to not have it show. So then doing the last little side here. And in this case, I had quite a bit of tape covering along the side, so I'm just doing the one piece. There. So now the box is put together. Now I have to put in my window. I have pre-cut my, let me get that out of my way. I have pre-cut my pieces. and I made them smaller than the box side, but not too much smaller, because you want to make sure that you catch it all around on the four sides when you put it inside. And something I forgot to say is we need double-sided tape. And I'm just getting some now. This is a nightmare roll. I think this came from somebody's, I think it came from somebody's stash of stuff that I got at one time or another. It's not, it's double-sided tape, but it's meant to go in a like some type of a little gun thing. And this is not going to be easy for you to see. Let me see if I can find something to put underneath it. I don't know if that helps at all to see it. But I just put my double-sided tape along the edges. Like I said, this is not the best tape to show you. If you've got double-sided tape, I'm sure it's better than this. But it's just a roll that I'm using up wherever I can. Because I hate to see it go to waste. And trust me, I've cursed a few times making these because this tape is old, I think, but it does the job. It's just that it's old. And this is one of those annoying things that's going to annoy me. So I'll just get it out of my way here. But I'm just trying to use it up so it doesn't go, you know, into the landfill for nothing. Probably not the best tape to show you in a video, but it's what I have. It's kind of one of those don't do what I do methods. Okay, so I have my double-sided tape on here, and I'm just going to peel back the edges and make sure that this tape is completely inside here. And then holding it with the tape side up, I slide it into the box. And I've kind of made the acetate just slightly smaller, so I know that it's going to fit in here well. And then once it's in the box, you can see there's the window. So I do one more little thing. And that's because you're going in and out of this box. Like I said, there's always those little sticking up things, those little flippy things that can come out. So I take my tape gun and I just get a little bit more tape. You could even leave this for the end if you wanted. And I'm just going to cut it thin to half size. Maybe some Scotch tape would work too if you wanted to use it. But I find Scotch tape is so flimsy. And I just want to kind of catch the top edge of that window acetate and I just fold it over again so that there's nothing sticking up that will peel off of here. And that's why I do it this way. So there is my box put together. The only thing I would do now is put in 2 holes and then put my string through. So, but I realized in making these again that if I put the holes in here, although I'm going to do it regardless, if I put the holes in here, then I have to collage around those holes or take those ropes off when I go to collage these boxes so that I get a nice perfect finish. So I just thought, since I haven't done them yet, I'll just show you how I now reuse these pieces. So I would take my glue stick, probably be better to glue it right on the book page, right? That would make sense, Kim. So can you see me gluing this? Now, I'm not too worried if I don't catch it completely, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to line this up. Hopefully this will work on camera. I think I have to stand to do this. Okay, it's not too bad. And, oh, I glued it that way. I glued it sideways. I didn't glue it from the top. And now I'm going to wrap this around the side of the box. And it's not going to be perfect. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tear it off because it isn't going to tear or go around there very nicely. So I'm just going to manually tear it off. And here's the reason why. If you're trying to glue over this plastic tape, you're going to find that it's not going to stick that well. So I'm just going to take this part off here as well. So you're going to find that it doesn't stick that well to this plastic tape. So you kind of have to do what I call sneaking up on it. So you're sneaking up on the tape. So I will take another piece of paper and I will glue it where there's cardboard. I will glue it down. Now, if you're making these and you're making one at a time and you want to go start to finish and finish it, then you don't have to put the packing tape on. But the packing tape does make it nice and secure. I do admit that. So I will find a place where I can glue this down where at least the paper is catching on the corrugated cardboard a little bit. This is what I call sneaking up. I'm sneaking up on that tape. And so I will tape it where there's cardboard, bare cardboard. And then I will take another piece of book page. Now I have so many of these, I'm just going to use a piece of this because it's handy. So I will take another piece of this now and cut it into smaller, more manageable pieces. And when I'm gluing it, I will glue onto this paper because, you know, that we want to cover this spot. So I will glue onto this paper, knowing that I'm catching that paper and that this is long enough to catch this paper. So now I know that this is going to sit on here and not lift. It's not going to come off because it's being attached to a piece of paper, and that paper is attached to a piece of cardboard, which is paper. So this is how I wrap around something like this that's plasticky, that it's not going to stick well. And same with along the top. I do go along the top into the box. And I'm not going to do the whole box on camera, but just to show you, I will take another piece here. And to go around the top, I know I've got paper here that I'm going to collage over top. And I don't like to collage them exact over top. I like to move over a little bit so that they overlap better. And then I will have that. Now it's stuck to this paper and I will wrap it around, knowing that it is now touching the cardboard at some place on this side. Does that make sense? Please let me know. So that now I can continue to collage, and I can do the same thing. I can attach my next piece here, knowing that I'm going to catch that piece of paper and catch this one, and then whatever I put here is going to catch onto the cardboard. So that's how I sneak up on my plastic tape, so that I don't have to worry about it lifting, that the collage paper is going to lift. So I would continue to cover this, and I cover it basically with book pages, or I will be covering all of them with basic book pages first, and then I may do something decorative like a label on the front or something, but I will bring you along for that ride when we get to that point, only because this is collage, and you don't need to see all of this while I'm doing it. So I will show you more of my method. I just want to glue this piece down because it is here. And I will show you more of how I did these in a future video, possibly when I do a studio tour. So making sure that it does catch onto that paper up here, and then when it goes around the corner, it's catching onto that paper there. So that, again, even though I'm repeating myself, this way I know it's not going to lift off the plastic at all. And then, I could go as far as inking the edges, decorating this further with collage bits and color and stuff as I need it. But for myself, I don't want. I just want plain book page and maybe a label. So the last thing is to put holes to put my cord on, and I just pick a spot somewhere on the top. I've got this set at, I think, 3.5 inch from the top, so I just put 2 holes, and then any kind of string or cord that you want to use to put your tie on. I slip one end through, and then taking 2 of the these plastic crow beads, I will feed one on, and tie a knot. Now you can just tie a knot if you want. I just found that if the thread can go through easily through the hole, so can the knot, because there's not a lot of difference. And if you've got heavy stuff in here, it could pull the cord through, which is why I use the bead. That's kind of the final stopper to hold this from coming through. And then I just measure a length. It's going to depend on the size of box you're using, and then put the cord through, then put your bead on. And trust me, on this one, you're going to do this a few times where you put the bead on and then try to knot it after. It only happens a few times. No, I shouldn't say that. It happens a lot. Sometimes you forget, and I put the bead on first, so then it's on the wrong side. So then I tie a knot and pull it. If you've got little bits hanging here, you can cut them off or leave them inside the box. It doesn't matter. I just and then you have your pull. So there you go. Caroline, I hope this works for you. Do share if you make some of these boxes, because they will be fun. And like I said, you can fill them up with all kinds of wonderful things in the box to square everything off and put it on your shelf. Have a visual, have a label if you find that a label works for you, and decorate them up in any way that is appealing and aesthetically pleasing to you. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, do let me know. I would love to hear from you. One little quick thing, if you were watching me make the spools, where did I put that now? Oh, it's gone on my table. Oh, here it is. If you watched my video making the spools the other day, I did show you that I made some smaller ones. Well, at the end of the day, towards the end of the video, I had run out of glue, and I took my glue stick and I threw it in the garbage, but I kept the cap, because I always, I stockpile my caps here, until I have a few of them to put away, and then they go into one of these boxes on my shelf, and I use these for making tassels. But when I threw this in the bin, I realized, Oh my goodness. This is awesome. So now they become, and I put the cap back on so that it is the same width on both ends. And I use that now to make the centers of these other spools. So if you want to see how these are made and understand how I'm using this, you have to go back and watch that video to see this. But again, this is, recycling and repurposing and making some lace spools. And this is on here pretty good. I just have a little bit of finishing to do. Because I hadn't done the inside, and I was just testing to see if this worked, and it did. So what I would do now in the future is I would collage the inside like I do on the other spools. Check out the spool video. You'll know what I mean then. And so this was a little bit harder to maneuver to cut out, but once you make a template to fit and know what the size is of this, you can use your empty glue stick spools or to make a spool for your ribbons and trims. Go check out the video. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you all a very creative day and a creative week. I do have some awesome videos coming up. I have a video for BB Craft showing you how I use some of those decorative trims. I have my next video coming up for the January 25th for the desktop tour, which hopefully will look better than this. And then I also have a boho tags video coming up showing you again some different ways that I'm going to be using these trims that I got from BB Craft. So thank you for watching. I wish you all a very creative day and a creative weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now.